Productivity Lovers Podcast, episode 9.
Woo! We're still
All
here.
right. We are.
Welcome,
We certainly
Productivity Lovers, podcast listeners.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Productivity Lovers Podcast, the podcast about how to become more productive in your work and home environment. The Productivity Lovers Podcast is brought to you by Chris Scrott, a certified professional organizer, and Deb Lee, a digital productivity coach. Buckle up and enjoy the show.
How are you?
Should I tell you how I'm doing?
Yeah,
you know what?
please.
I'm fabulous. I am operating in a interesting space, but I'm going to say that I am fabulous. I am happy. I am always happy to see you. You know that. Love chatting with you. So I'm going to operate from a position of I'm not talking about anything that's going wrong. And you know there are some things going wrong, but everything is fabulous. Everything is great.
I think we should operate out of a place of always telling the truth.
Well, I think maybe you're right. But if I aim for fabulous, I'll get a little bit of that.
That's
right.
true.
So there are some things that are a little bit wonky and upside down.
Yeah, that's true.
But in the grand scheme of things, I'm alive, I'm healthy, I have clothing, I have food, I have people that love me, I have you.
I know. You have me. That's always fabulous.
Of course. So therefore, I am fabulous. How are you doing?
I think in the grand scheme of life, my renters have water problems. Therefore, I have water problems. But, that distracts a little bit from the productivity of just being one with my to-do list when it's completely derailed by other people's list of things to do. But I'm good.
Yes.
They're lovely people. And I'm really happy that I feel like we're a family. I feel like I have these lovely people living in my house and I like them and they like me and we get along and
that's nice.
going well. It's a good relationship.
Yeah. I love it. I feel like you've just gotten a whole new set of bonus people.
I did.
Right?
Yeah, they're totally like the other day when I left there, I was like, gosh, I could hang out with these people for fun.
You like them.
I like them. Yeah. So
That's
think
nice.
that,
I like that.
It's like when you're sharing a house with someone, it's like, there are challenges to it. But besides that, I think, life is good.
Yes. And so I'm choosing to focus on the good things and not let some of these wonky, crazy, ridiculous, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening kind of things get in my way. So,
because, I think the truth is also that whenever things like that happen, you have two choices, right? One, you can just honor the feeling of anxiety and fear and like honor the space that it's going to take time for you to recover from how you feel about it.
Sure.
Or you can like cope in some unhealthy way about the fact that you're not going to deal with it. Or you can just accept.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where you're at. You're in acceptance.
I am in acceptance mode. I'm not in the understanding mode just yet, but I'm accepting what is happening. And I think I'm dealing with it with some grace.
Yeah.
I think.
And just so everybody know, Deb's okay.
I am fine. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I did say that, right? So
I think we should say that because
just right off the bat,
people may worry about you.
Yes, and I do appreciate those of you who worry about me, but everything is fine. Nothing that I am experiencing right now is it's all fixable.
Yeah,
it's all fixable. It's annoying, but it's all fixable. It's all renovation related.
I was gonna say you have two clues about what's related to kitchen, and kitchen. Okay, well, enough about dwelling.
Yes.
I was thinking, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the rule of 3, and apparently there are a few of them.
Yeah, I think we discussed talking about just rules in general. And
yes.
How does that apply to like real life situations?
Well, we started out with rule of 3, but you're right. I mean, last time we talked about Pomodoro, and Pomodoro has some rules attached to it. There's another one when I used to organize, and you've heard this one where you shouldn't touch papers more than
Oh my
twice or
God,
something
I
like
hate
that,
that rule.
right?
It's
Don't handle it more
Ohio.
than twice.
Only
Ohio, there you
handle it
go.
once.
And only handle it once. There's that. There's the 2-minute rule. If you can get it done in 2 minutes or less, just do it. I
Yep.
actually kind of like that one.
Mhm.
But there's always a rule that we're sort of trying to fit ourselves in. It's
Yeah.
like a box. And if you don't fit in the box, you suck.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just, let's just see how much love hatred we have over the rules, and let's just go down a couple of them. Like, just to be honest, I think sometimes clients ask me for these things. They're like, what?
Yes.
They say, what is the rule about X, Y, and
Yes.
Z thing? And in my head, I'm thinking like, well, really, I like to rebel against some of these rules. And then I'm a rule follower. So it's very confusing.
I think sometimes, though, we are so overwhelmed that we want a rule.
Mhm.
We want a guideline. We want A plus B equals C. If you do it this way, you will always be golden. But life is not quite like that. And so
No.
sometimes rules, they constrict, right? And if they flex a little bit, they can flex with you no matter what the day serves up. So I think clients, I feel for them because they want something to rely on. They want a
Yeah.
routine. And the rules, there's usually a rule that goes with the routine. Like I get up and I brush my teeth first, and then I brush my hair, and then I get dressed, and hopefully I remember my deodorant and all of those things.
Sometimes I don't.
So rules can be really helpful until they're not.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think
Yeah.
that what came up for me when you said all that is like rules keeps us safe. Whenever you know
Yes.
what the rules
Yes.
are, there's a level of safety that goes into that. And therefore
right.
I trust that the world is okay. So I'm going to start with Ohio, which just
Yeah.
stands for only handle it once.
Yep.
Which is a rule that people apply to a lot of things like their paperwork and their stuff around their home. I don't know really how people apply that to their time, but I think it's all connected, right? And
Yeah.
I think that rule is great. I don't know who invented it. Good for you for coming up with it. 80% of the time, I think it's unrealistic.
I was about to say that. Is it reasonable to think that you can only handle it once? I mean, unless it's obvious, this needs to be shredded. So I pick it up once and I take it over to the shredder. Or, this is clearly junk mail. So I put it in my recycling. I'm only handling it once. I grab it from the mailbox and I go straight to the recycling bin. That's once. But I'm not sure if you can really do that with all the other things that you have in life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what comes up for me is like if you already have good systems and you know where this stuff needs to go because you're fairly organized, handling it once works just fine, right? Because then you're right. You know where your shred box is, you know where your recycling bin is, you know where your filing system is, you know where your batteries go.
And you have a routine around those things.
Right.
Right.
And you know where to put it. So it makes complete sense that you're like only handle it once.
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't know that it's a great rule. But I think one other rule that comes up for me that's kind of attached to only handle it once, it's like the 2-minute rule. There's a 2-minute rule. I think there's a 3-minute rule.
Yes.
I've seen a 4-minute rule. Like everybody's coming up. There's probably a 5-minute rule, right? So what are your thoughts about those rules?
So I like the 2-minute rule that says if you can do it in 2 minutes, just handle it. I think for the most part, most of us can carve out 2 minutes to do that thing. We have to be realistic and reasonable too, right? Because we sometimes think it can take 2 minutes when it can really take 20.
Mm-hmm.
So understand how much you can do in 2 minutes. Sometimes it helps to actually set a timer for 2 minutes so you can feel how that time elapses and how much it really takes. I can brush my teeth in 2 minutes. And you know how I know that? Because I have an electric toothbrush and it stops after 2 minutes.
It's timed.
Right?
Yes.
It's right. So it's timed. I know exactly what 2 minutes feels like. And actually, because I'm so used to that, it does it in 30-second bites or chunks. I I automatically move the toothbrush to another quadrant of my mouth right around that 30-second mark. So I'm in that groove and I know how to do it. So sometimes when I don't feel like brushing my teeth, I say, you know what? It only takes 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes and you're done.
Yeah.
Quick, easy peasy. If there are things like that in your life that are quick, easily done, don't take a lot of thought, that are part of a strong routine, you can really take care of it and be done and cross it off your list, do it. If it's
Yeah.
going to take 3 minutes or more, I don't know, maybe think about it.
5 minutes or less for me.
Yeah.
I think what I remembered is yesterday I made reservations for my sister. She's going to Philadelphia to
Okay.
see Green Day.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, so much fun, right?
Yeah.
So I made reservations for her, and of course, like the reservations showed up under my name. So then I had to call and make a change. And I thought like, oh, this should only take 5 minutes. Well,
It didn't.
35 minutes later, I
Ooh.
was still on the phone trying to talk to customer service about a basic name swap change, right? It was like, and I was thinking like, wow, this is a real long time for something that I thought it shouldn't take that long.
Why did you think it would only take 5 minutes?
I don't know, because I thought like I dial in, I say, hi, this is my reservation number, and I would like to like take the name out of Chris and add my sister's name to it, which is Vanessa, right? It doesn't feel like that much work. And then they would save and close and then send me another thing. Like just describing it took 30 seconds.
No.
But the
So then
bureaucracy sometimes is like outrageous.
Too long. So if you don't actually know how long something will take and you're guesstimating, would you say, yes, try it anyway and see if you can do it in 5 minutes? Or would you say, let's wait because it could take longer? Because I know my toothbrush. I know that when I brush my teeth, it will absolutely be 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But in a case like I'm going to call another human being, who may not be at the top of their game, or who may not understand the process. I don't know. Maybe those sort of unknowns should be scheduled.
Yeah, but I would have never scheduled 30 minutes for that call. Even at the best of times, I would have never imagined that swapping a name in a reservation would take that long, right?
Yeah, so, I wouldn't have guessed 30 minutes. I may have guessed 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 10.
So my thing about these rules is that sometimes, I multitasked while I was on hold.
Okay. So you used your wait time.
I did, yeah. I filed paperwork that were on my desk that's just been sitting. So I read some junk email and newsletters while I was on hold. So I kind of like doubled it up.
That's a whole other episode. Why are you reading junk emails? Why? But we'll talk about that another time.
I've been buying things for the house. So, every time you click on something, they send you something else that's related to it. That's kind of a complicated reason why to read emails. But I used my time doing something else. So I feel like I doubled up. But I think that was a violation of my 2-minute rule because I thought it would take just a little bit and it really didn't.
Okay.
And I can see how sometimes thinking that something is going to take 2 minutes and it doesn't can derail your whole schedule, right? Because you're like inserting all of these little things. So clearly I didn't do anything else that I thought would take 2 minutes after that call because I was like, well, that quota is gone.
Well, I mean, it could help for someone to have sort of a series of activities in their mind or even a list of things that they can do in 5 minutes or less, or 3 minutes or less, or even 2 minutes, so that when they are presented with some extra time or time that they didn't have before, maybe something that was scheduled is now rescheduled to another date, you can say, well, could this fit in this time, in this time block, in this block of time, could it fit? And if I know generally what things take 2 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes, then I can gauge which thing I might insert in that spot. So I think maybe having an idea of activities, maybe recurring activities that one might need to do, like sort through the junk mail, or I don't know, check through emails, or unsubscribe from newsletters
Yeah,
that
for
you don't
sure.
read anymore, things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Then you can probably be a little bit on top of on top of your game, hopefully, but just a little bit more prepared in how you use that time.
Yeah, I do have to say I'm moving on from that rule.
Let's move on.
One of my favorite rules is like pairing things together.
Love
You
that.
know, a few years ago, I became responsible for like picking up the mail and taking
Yep.
out the trash, which had not been my responsibility for years.
Right.
And so I found myself forgetting to do those things regularly.
Yeah.
And I went to lunch with another one of our organizing friends,
Okay.
Emily.
Hey.
And she's like, how you doing? Living by yourself. And I was like, this is really frustrating because there are all of the things that I used to not be responsible for that now I have
Yeah,
to be responsible
that's
for,
right.
but I just don't like it. And I said, and I keep forgetting to take out the trash. And she laughed, she thought it was like the most hilarious thing. And then she was like, have you considered one of the techniques we tell our clients all the time of pairing things together? And I was like, what do you
That's
mean
right.
pairing? She's like, I don't know, like pairing watering the plants with taking out the trash. And
That's right.
I was like, genius. So on Wednesdays, I started, even though it wasn't trash day,
Yeah.
I would put out the trash early.
Okay.
I would take out the trash, I would water the plants, and I would get the mail. So once a week, at least my mailbox got emptied out. That started working so well. I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. So pairing is one of my favorite rules.
I do like that. My pairing is a little different. So,
Yeah, tell me about it.
I like listening to podcasts or
Mhm.
watching a show or listening to an audiobook when I'm on the treadmill.
Okay.
So those two, so it's a really great way to multitask because I'm getting my brain and my body worked out at the same time and really carving out that time, but I'm getting like a two for one,
That's
right?
very true.
So I really, really love that.
Are you
I,
walking or are you running on your treadmill?
okay, so if I run, my lungs feel like they're coming through my nose. So there's no running. And if running happens, it is for maybe a minute, 2 minutes, and then
Okay.
I start walking and then I run again for a minute or 2 minutes. But that's about it. So all you runners out there,
Interval training for you.
yes, interval training. It's the only way I can run. I can't run for very long.
Yeah.
So I'm not distracted by how I feel. So if I were running, I would be really distracted by how I was feeling, the fact that I'm gasping for air. I feel like I'm about to fall off or something like that. So if I'm walking though, I'm able to still get my heart rate up, but not so much where I can't pay attention to what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
So I really love putting those two things together.
Yeah, you have mentioned this before about audiobooks and
Love them.
exercising. And I think you mentioned that your book number count was pretty high.
Okay, so I checked that book number count. So the last time we talked about this was probably towards the beginning when we first started doing the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And so just last week I checked. I am at book number 54, I think.
That's amazing.
54. So I listened to a book in probably a day and a half. And it's not that I'm sitting down and listening to the book all in one sitting. I'm not just, let me sit down in the sofa and listen. I'm doing it while I'm doing other things, usually walking. So
Mhm.
I make a point of getting up once per hour. My tracker tells me, hey, Deb, it's time to get up. And then that's when I listen. So even if I'm only walking for 5 minutes, I listen for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when I have 10 minutes, I give it 10 minutes. So, but I'm listening enough that I'm able to get it done in a day, maybe day and a half. So 55 so far, 54, somewhere thereabouts.
So are you listening to them like at 2.5 times the speed?
No, not at all. Nope. Just regular speed because they sound funny when they go at 1.5
They do
times.
sound funny.
They sound real funny.
There are some books that are really slow though. Even at 2 times the speed, they still sound really slow.
Yeah. So I'm listening to one currently that is a little, for me, boring. I like historical books. I like hearing, so it's historical fiction. I love that there's some real things tied into this fictional work of art. But because it's a little boring, it's harder for me to really kind of get into it. So
Yeah.
And this is the part of the podcast where I pause and I look over at my husband who is trying to talk to me while we record.
Okay.
It's over there somewhere. Probably. I love it. Life is happening, guys. Life is happening.
This is like, this is like work. This is what it's like working from home.
Indeed.
We have all learned to like appreciate distractions. So,
and so you know what? I just used my 2-minute rule.
2-minute
I
rule.
knew that I could answer that question in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes,
And I
yeah.
knew that if I didn't answer that question, he would keep coming back and that would take longer than 2 minutes. So just interrupt the podcast and ask, like,
Yeah.
yay,
You're
right?
staring you down like, why answer we?
I know. 2-minute rule in action, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some like kid rule that goes with that too, where like if you don't respond, they just keep coming back until.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. So,
what other rules are we fan of or not so much of a fan of?
I'm trying to think. So I am a fan of clearing your desk at the end of the day. So it's
That's
a
what it is.
rule. It's a sort of a resetting rule so that when you walk into the office the next day or your workspace the next day, it's clear, it's ready for you to begin working. You don't have the chore of having to clean up and organize and kind of get it ready. You're ready to go. I don't know that it can happen in 2 minutes. It might need 15 or 20 minutes at the end of a day, but it's 15 or 20 minutes well spent. So I love that rule.
Yeah. I do not clean my desk at the end of every day. I love how we bring two sides to the story here at this podcast.
Yes, I know.
Productive even when your desk is messy.
Listen, you can still get stuff if your desk done if your desk is messy.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can, and there are people who need some of that. They can put their hand on a piece of paper. They know where it is, what they're looking for. So I don't think you always have to do it, but I do think it helps your brain the next day.
It does, yeah.
If you know the lay of the land and things are kind of clear.
Yeah. I do have to say that I take things from my desk and I pile them on the floor. So I have like project piles on the floor, a couple of, I have 3 piles.
And you know what those piles are, I would imagine?
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know what's in those piles?
I do. And it's funny because the other day I was in the kitchen and I pile all the kids' schoolwork on one big pile. And one of them said something and I was like, piling looks so much better. And then she looked at me and she's like, yeah, you like piles. I have noticed that about you. And I was like, in my brain, I was like, is she saying that in a derogatory way? Or
she's not. She's making an observation.
I think she was making a sarcastic observation. I thought it was funny because I was like, yeah, that is who I am. I pile things. Sometimes that's okay.
Well, when even if you are a pile person, I think that's fine. If your piles can be somewhat organized and neat somewhere and you're easily able to reach for them when you need them, I think that goes a long way too. So all you pilers out there, go
your desk and that will look much better the next day.
I mean, right now I'm in sort of a makeshift space. So I don't have a routine around this space. Normally I would be upstairs in my office, but that's not available to me. So I right now have piles around me, but it's hard for me to see them. So I'm always trying to neaten them up and try to put them in some kind of order because I like seeing a clear space. Yeah. And so that rule for me really sort of is ingrained.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think those sounds like a lot of good rules.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and even if we don't like a rule, doesn't mean that someone listening can't like it.
For sure. Yeah.
It might work for them. And if it works for you and your life and your routines and what you've got going on, then absolutely go for it.
Absolutely. And if you're using one of the rules that we talked about successfully and you want to tell us how it's working for you, please share with us on any of our social media. Should we recap the rules we talked about? We talked about
Ohio,
only handle it once.
2-minute rule.
2-minute rule.
Clear your desk at the end of every day.
Clear your desk or not.
Or not. or not. I vote for yes.
And we talked about pairing.
And pairing, matching up activities that you can do at the same time. So good multitasking.
Thank you for giving the definition of what pairing is, because people are going to ask, what is pairing? It is not a very fancy word for something that we do a lot.
That's true. That's true.
Helping our brain stays organized and productive.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, unless you think there's anything else we should cover.
Nope. I think we've covered it today. We're good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Productivity Lovers podcast.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Productivity Lovers podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe so that you get notified when we upload a new productivity podcast. For more tips and notes from the show, check us out at productivitylovers.com. Talk to you soon.